Welcome in to D. Armstrong WLTZ. That's where you find the best news and the best information. WLTZ Facebook Live. I have Anna Cannon with me. We're not going to waste a whole lot of time setting this up because we need to get to the heart of this thing. She is the director of the CASA Volunteer Organization.
Actually, I'm not the director. That's Kagan Clark. I'm a CASA volunteer recruiter and supervisor.
Supervisor. Mm-hmm. That's the word that stuck
like
out.
I am not
supervisor.
I'm not the director.
Okay. All right. And CASA, I threw that question out earlier. I threw it out on Twitter. I threw it out on Instagram. Some people knew what it was. Some people didn't. They thought it was something that has to do with me. CASA is Su Casa. And in some sort of weird way it is. Tell them what CASA is and why we are asking you to share this with so many people because we're looking for CASA volunteers.
Yes, so CASA actually stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, and what we do is we have volunteers that advocate for the best interest of children in foster care.
Wow. Go to even while you're watching now, as a matter of fact, I'm going back. There's so many stories of young people who have come out of CASA. I'm looking at Laura's story, and this will kind of draw you in as to why there's such a need for them. She says, my first foe was my father. And this is they volunteer, they give up their privacy for this. She says, my father was horribly abusive to my mother and me. When he finally left, a new enemy surprised me, my mother's demons. I was 13 when my mom's mental illness drove her to lock me in a back bedroom of our house without food or water. By the time the police broke down the door and came in, I was literally starving. When I got out of the hospital, I had a new status. I was a foster child. Said, oh my goodness.
And that story is not the only story you hear. I mean, Laura's story could be your neighbor's story, it could be the child down the street, it could be the person standing in the grocery store line beside you. I mean, you never know what walks of life that these children come from. I mean, it's a huge, huge issue.
Now, when you go to that website, it's CASA Court Appointed Special Advocate. Go there, and she ends it by saying, you know what? Part of the reason I'm doing so well, she was in the military. And let me see if I remember correctly. She got out, and now she is at the Marine Corps Air Station, and she's a civilian police officer. She's 27 years old. And she says, the only reason I still have a mind it's because of my CASA volunteer.
Absolutely.
Because of everything that was going on, the only thing that was stable was someone who said, and her name is Sally Payne. We love you, Sally. We love you for doing this. Sally Payne was there, and she knew it. Wow.
Yeah. It's the thing about being a CASA volunteer, and I was a volunteer for almost 2 years before I came on as staff in January. The thing about being a CASA volunteer is you get to be that one consistent adult in a child's life, because the fact of the matter is currently there are 426 children in foster care in Muskogee, Harris, Talbot, and Taylor counties. 426, and while that number has gone down recently, the number changes every day from children that enter and exit to this, enter and exit the system. So what that CASA volunteer does, while that number has gone down,
sorry about that.
That's okay. So while that number, like I said, while that number has gone down, it does change every day, and the need is always great for volunteers.
Wow. So when someone says, okay, I believe in this cause, I want to be a CASA volunteer, what are they getting themselves into? What happens?
So when you say, I want to become a CASA volunteer, the first step that you need to take is to fill out an application, and they can get that application by either contacting me at the local CASA office, and I'll give you all the information at the end. So you contact the office, you fill out an application. After that, you have an interview, an in-person interview with either myself or one of the staff. And then after that, you go through a 40-hour training, which we knock out in 3 weeks. So it's not that big of a time commitment. After that, you're sworn in by our judge here.
Is there a background check?
Yes, there's a background check. There is fingerprinting. You can't have any, you have to be at least 21 years old. You have to have no prior history with the Division of Family and Children's Services. You have to have no major criminal background.
Because your desire is that the their hopes are pure. The reason they're there, it's a pureness that they're coming.
Right.
They're coming there for nothing but to help a child,
right,
to
because
have a better life.
these children have already been through so much trauma, and they've already had a lot of things happen in their life. The last thing they need is for somebody to come in and not be truthful and have a heart for advocacy, because it's hard. I mean, it's not your cookie cutter volunteer program. It's, well, these other volunteer programs are great and we love them. Being a CASA volunteer is very serious business. I mean, you can change a child's life, and not only their life, you can make an impact on their future. I mean, the people that they marry, on their children. It's a big deal. So after they're sworn in by the judge, we assign them a case, and so we closely match them with a child or children that we feel like they would best advocate for. And so we ask.
So what does that mean? Does that mean I go to their foster home to visit them? I go to court with them? I can buy them things that maybe the foster parent, because they take on a lot of burden, the foster parent.
They do.
I can buy some things for them.
Yeah.
And then how often can I see them?
So we ask as a program that you see your child once a month, and that's just the minimum requirement. And so if you have the need or the desire to see those children more than once a month, that's totally up to you. But we do ask that you see them at least once a month, so that you can get a good idea as to what's going on with them. And being sworn in by the judge makes you an officer of the court, so you have access to pretty much their entire life. And so you can talk to their doctors, you can look at their medical records, you talk to their teachers, you're basically a surrogate parent for them.
You know what I was reading is that sometimes things are happening to a child. This one gentleman, go on the site, he's now traveling the world talking about child advocacy, and came through abuse from his mother and her boyfriend, physical and sexual. I tell you, this is so important. But what happens is that there are often things that are happening to the child, and that's what's happening. It's to the child, and the child is going, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe that doesn't feel good to me.
Right.
But nobody asked them.
They don't, right.
Yeah, nobody asked him what he said. I felt like I didn't have a voice in anything. And then sometimes I was too afraid to say something.
Right.
So that's what the CASA person does. Huh?
Yes. So that's what they do. They are that voice for those children. And so that's one of our hashtags is hashtag I am for the child. And so what we do is, we go in and we meet these children and we meet these foster parents and we have contact with the biological parents, and because the main thing that we want, our main goal is reunification with the biological family, if at all possible, because that's what's important. Because these families, sometimes they just get on a bad path, and so we don't always know the whole story, but as a CASA volunteer, you get to know that whole story. And so you get to understand that, while they may not feel comfortable talking to you at first, when you show up for them and they know that you're that one constant person in their life,
always there,
then that says a whole thing. I know that Barbara Strickland, she's one of our volunteers. Her CASA child asked her, because when we meet with them, we say, is there anything that you want us to talk to the judge about? Is there anything specific that you want us to say? And she said, Miss Barbara, can you please ask the judge if he'll pray for us or pray for me for a rainbow? And she said, I know. Wow. And so she said, can I say that? And I was like, well, and we said, well, absolutely. And so she went through all of the hard advocacy points, and she said, Judge, there's just one more thing. She said she asked if you would pray for her for a rainbow. And he said, well, absolutely. And when that little girl looked across the courtroom and she saw Barbara stand up and say those things,
somebody cares.
She cares.
She
knew that was her person, and that she was going to do what she said she would do for her.
Wow. Well, I have a friend who is a foster parent, and she said sometimes what she sees is that a parent may lose the child, but someone in the family comes to retrieve the child, but they're no really better off. It's all about the money that they think they might get for caring for the child. And she says, I feel like the child wants to say, I don't want to go there either. Do you find that often? Sometimes
it's really by a case-by-case basis, and so we really try, because we partner with the department, to really make sure that child is going to a safe and proper place. And so
even if it might be an aunt or a cousin,
right,
that might not be
because they're family. And so family most times knows best what's for that child. And so if reunification with the biological mother and father isn't possible, then we try to do a relative placement, whether that's an aunt, an uncle, a cousin. And if that's not possible, then we really do try to have them placed with their adoptive placement, somebody that has grown to know and love them over time.
Wow. What about the need for more men?
Yes.
Because women, I think this is what we do. We have hope and we believe. And I want to serve CASA. And then men, they see different roles sometimes. And we have to let them know we need you
We
in
do.
something like this.
Yes. So currently we have 77 active volunteers. And of those 77, there are 14 men.
Oh,
14 men. And so we love those men, and they do a great job for CASA. But we need more men because we have just as many boys in care as we do girls. And sometimes little boys aren't going to open up to a woman like they would a man. I mean, that's
I know?
That's just the way it is.
I raised 4 boys, and I would say, he told you what?
Right. And so, like, a lot of times it's more difficult for us to kind of get in there and to figure out what's really going on with them, because they close up like a clam, and you're just like, please just talk to me. And so I feel like a lot of times if they had a strong male role model in their lives, that they not only would they be more apt to open up to them, but then they would see that, you know, this is what it's like to be a strong male in our society.
Yes, because they learn about who they're going to be by emulating most of the time someone else. I want to say thank you so much for being with us, you guys. Betty Nickerson Nelson is with us, Timothy Childry and Linda Newsom, Lynn Bueller, Rhonda German, Bridget Jenkins Hawes. Thank you. Don Kent has joined. Tell the people watching how important it is. You were giving me some stats. When a child that's going through has had CASA, they're much more likely to do better.
Yes.
Than those who haven't.
Yes. So when a child has a CASA volunteer, they are twice as likely to graduate high school. They are twice as likely to go to college. They are that much less likely to be involved in violent crimes, just because they have. I mean, when you're in foster care, a lot of times it's a feeling of despair and a feeling of depression that kind of sets in. And a lot of times, while we love our foster parents and they do an amazing job for these children by stepping in and taking care of them, a lot of times they just need that extra set of eyes and ears.
I was reading this too, and I'm certainly not an expert, so I'm throwing all these crazy questions out at Anna. Okay, but one of the things one of the kids was saying, I had so many foster parents, but the only person that was always there from foster parent to foster parent to foster parent was my CASA volunteer. So you can change those foster parents, but you need something, and that's that volunteer.
And so, I mean, and the thing is the case managers that work for the department, they're so overloaded, and they do such a great job with the children that they manage. But when you have such a large number of cases and a large number of children to see every month and to do all of the separate paper, I mean, it just gets overwhelming.
Yes.
And so when you have that extra set of eyes and ears of a CASA volunteer, we can partner with them and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what, they need. Like, they may need some educational advocacy. Maybe they're failing science and they really need a science tutor, or they need to have an IEP plan, which is an individualized education plan, because they're not doing so well. Maybe they're developmentally delayed. And so when you get to know these children, you get to know their problem. Much like I know everything that goes on in my children's lives, I know what goes on in my CASA children's lives as well.
Wow. Here's a little bit of the story, and it's called Gaining Ground by Losing Hope, and Liz Tarrant is the volunteer in Coos County, Oregon, it says. Wow. Read this story earlier today, and this CASA, would you call her a graduate? What do you call them when they come through CASA?
Well, they're officially CASA volunteers, and so I mean, we can call them graduates. It's like, I mean, because they go through the training and they go through.
I mean, the kids.
Like the CASA
once the
children?
kids have aged out at 18, is there still a relationship?
It really depends on the CASA volunteer. I mean, like I currently advocate for 8 CASA children, and 4 of them have been placed with relatives in another state. And so I still maintain contact with them. I mean, their aunt sends me pictures. I talk to them on the phone. And so it really just depends, because you get to know these children. I mean, you really do over the years. And and when I say years, I mean we don't like for them to stay in foster care for that long, but the reality of the fact is that they stay in care for entirely too long. So when you get to know them over these years, you
keep that communication.
Yeah,
Well,
you
here's
love
part of
them.
the story. Wow, it says Savannah assumed the role of a parent at a very early age. Her mother, consumed by her addiction to alcohol and drugs, was seldom home to take care of Savannah and her 4 siblings. From early childhood, it was up to Savannah to bathe and dress the little kids, get them to daycare, do the grocery shopping. While other children might have been playing house, it was not a game for her. When she was 12 years old, her family situation was brought to the attention of Child Protective Services through calls from the school, and I think it goes on to say her little sister was found in somebody's yard, unattended, on a swing. And they said, "Where's your mama?" Mama's not around.
And she's not around.
Oh gosh.
And it happens more often than you think. And that number that I gave you, 426, that, like I said, that number changes every day. I mean, we were in court yesterday, and the numbers, like I said, the numbers change.
Here's Mark Hunter. He says, "I am a CASA."
He is one
and
of
I
our
wish more
14 men.
Okay, Mark Hunter, issue that
Yay.
challenge, all right. In general, he says more men need to volunteer.
Yes.
Donna Annette, thank you so much for joining us. And you guys, please share this, because that's how we get it out. It's going to be sitting there, and we want as many people to see this as possible. I raise a house full of kids, and I know that at some point I'm going to do something more with children, especially as I reach retirement age. And CASA just sounds like it can work in so many different lives.
It can.
You know, because you can still do those things as your own, for your own grandchildren, and you're inviting these other children into your life.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, we have our new slogan is Everyday Heroes, and so it kind of has a double meaning, because our children in foster care need a hero every day, and our volunteers come from everyday walks of life, and they're just everyday people like me and you. You don't have to have any, other than the 40-hour training, you don't have to have any special training. I mean, we have accountants, we have bankers, we have soldiers, we have nurses, we have retired teachers, we have all kinds of
God's
people.
going to bless you. God's going to bless you. I'll tell you, we have partnered, as far as we, meaning WLTZ, we've partnered with the local CASA organization. Tell them about that. We're sponsoring your superhero walk run.
So the superhero 5K and 1K fun run happens every April, and I believe the date for 2018 is April 14th. More details to come on that. And so what we it's during the month of April, which is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and it's a really fun time. We have Batman come out. We have Flash was our route man last year, and so it's just a really good time. And so all of those proceeds.
I have a costume, girl.
Yes, please,
I have a costume. I
get
have
in
a
your
superwoman
costume. We have superhero costume contest. We have all kinds of activities for the kids, and the 1K run usually happens first for the smaller children, and then the 5K happens after that.
Wow. Is this a fundraiser or an awareness raiser or both?
It is both. And so it's our main fundraiser for our local program. And so last year we were able to raise $13,000. And so if we can raise, if we can raise more than that this year, that would be fantastic. And so we take, we have sponsorship levels. They range in level from $100 up to our main premier sponsor of $2,500. And so anybody that's interested in being a sponsor for the race that happens next April, you can contact us in the same way. So
this is great. This is great. Now, again, for some of you who may have joined in a little bit later, because I want you to hear this. We're talking about being a CASA volunteer. And if you didn't hear, what they're looking for is a good heart, someone who loves the kids. Okay, tell them again, you come in, you get the interview, you go through a 40-hour class.
You get sworn in by the judge.
Get sworn in by the judge. And then who finds the child? Who makes that match?
So the CASA staff does. We, through your interview process, through the training class, and then you can tell us what kind of child you're more comfortable working with. You're more comfortable working with infants, because we have children in foster care from birth to 18. So it's a wide range of children, and so anybody that you're really comfortable working with. And most of our volunteers don't have a specific preference. They just want to help whoever's in care. So.
Wow. Well, any parting words? I told you this was going to be a good one, okay? And this is happening in our community. I love our community.
Yes.
If somebody were to take a national study, we probably have the most volunteers per capita.
We do, but the need is always great.
Yes,
So
we have people volunteer for so many things, and make sure that CASA is something that we spread the word about, because unfortunately, most of us know a family who has a child in foster care. We know someone that knows someone, and this is a community concern. And is there a need for money? What else do you need?
yes, I mean, so we're under the umbrella of Twin Cedars Youth and Family Services, and so you can go onto our website. It's www.twincedars.org, and so you can donate money. You can donate your time to become a CASA volunteer. We actually have a training class that starts September 12th, and then we have another class that starts in November. I'm thinking November 7th is the date in November.
Okay, awesomeness. Okay, we are going to announce, I had a bunch of new names come in. I was going to announce it right now, but look on my website in just a couple of minutes, because you guys tuned in. A lot of people tuned in, and they're also asking for the information for CASA,
Yes.
information for the Callaway Gardens tickets. So look on the site, and I'll have the winner for the Callaway Gardens tickets. And thank you so much for joining us again, getting ready to turn into D. Armstrong, the news anchor, in a minute at 12 o'clock. But Callaway Gardens having that wonderfully awesome and pretty balloon fest. And we're giving away the final set of tickets today. Look on my site. The tickets will be here in the office, so you'll need to pick them up tomorrow morning. They're coming this afternoon. You can pick them up anytime tomorrow, and it actually starts Friday. If you don't go Friday, you can go Saturday. I think you can also go Sunday too, but look on your ticket and see what how many days it's good for. Callaway Gardens. Anna Cannon, thank you so much for what you do, lady.
Thank you.
Wow, you've taken on an awesome task. You're changing lives.
Thank you.
And really, at the end of all our lives, that's really what it's about. What in the world did you do for somebody else?
Yep.
Not just yourself.
It's amazing. It really is. And so my contact information is, you can email me at acannon@twincedars.org, or you can call me at 706-327-9612, extension 1506.
Okay, let's fill up that roster and let some men know, because men have big hearts too.
Yes,
okay,
they do.
Need to be a CASA volunteer. We'll
Thank
see you
you
tomorrow, same time. All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, this was